If you or someone you know deals with migraines, you know that search for relief is it's constant. We always hear that advice, right? Get more exercise. But what does that actually mean? Well, today we're diving into a really fascinating new meta analysis that finally gives us a specific evidence based answer. So let's get right into it.
So, this is the big question, isn't it? Can we move past just general wellness advice and actually use exercise like a targeted medicine? For the millions of people living with the reality of migraines, the idea of a non drug tool that gives them more control, well, that's incredibly powerful. This research really set out to see if we could write an actual prescription for exercise.
So let's start the hunt for that clear answer. The goal here wasn't just to confirm that exercise is, good for you. We already knew that. The goal was to figure out the specifics. How much? How often? Is there some kind of magic number? That's what this is all about. And this wasn't just a single experiment. The scientists did what's called a meta-analysis. Basically, they gathered up the data from 15 different high-quality studies, all looking at aerobic exercise and migraines. By pooling all that information together, they could spot patterns that you just might not see in one study alone. It gives us a much clearer picture. And all of this analysis was based on the experiences of 253 people, all with a clinical diagnosis of migraine. It's so important to remember that behind these numbers are real individuals, just looking for ways to manage their condition. And it's their combined data that makes these findings so valuable. So let's get to what they actually found. They discovered a clear, statistically significant link. But the really exciting part is that they identified something called a dose-response relationship. Now, that's a scientific-sounding term, but we're going to break it down because it is the key to this whole thing. So what on earth is a dose-response relationship? Well, it's a simple but really powerful idea. Think about it like medication. The effect you get from a treatment, in this case exercise, it all depends on the dose. A tiny amount might do nothing, a medium amount might be perfect, and a huge amount might not add any more benefit. The researchers were basically hunting for that perfect dose. And here's where it gets really interesting, a little bit unexpected even. You'd probably assume that the more you exercise, the better your migraines will get, right? But the data actually showed that the benefits don't just keep climbing forever. The positive effects went up and up to a certain point, and then they leveled off. There's a point of maximum benefit, a sweet spot. And this brings us right to the heart of it all, finding that sweet spot. The researchers looked at two different goals a person with migraines might have. One, making the headaches they do get less painful, and two, just having fewer headaches overall. And it turns out they found slightly different sweet spots for each one. So let's break this down. On one hand, you've got pain intensity. That's about how severe a migraine feels. On the other hand, you've got migraine frequency, which is just how often they happen. The study looked at the data for both of these separately to create a much more precise prescription. Okay, first up, reducing pain intensity. To see a moderate effect, a really noticeable drop in how much a migraine hurts, the analysis found that a person needed to get in a minimum of 200 total minutes of aerobic exercise over the whole program. Think of that as the starting line for relief. But where was the peak benefit? For cutting down pain, that sweet spot, the point where you get the most bang for your buck, was right around a total dose of 900 minutes. This is where people in the studies saw the biggest drop in their pain levels. Okay, now let's switch gears to migraine frequency. If your main goal is to just have fewer migraine days, the starting line is a little different. Here, the study found you needed a minimum of 300 total minutes of exercise to start seeing a decent reduction in how often migraines were popping up. And the sweet spot for frequency, well, the maximum benefit for reducing the number of migraines you get was found at a total dose of 950 minutes. Super close to the number for pain intensity, but yeah, just a little bit different. This table here just lays it all out so clearly. It's the exercise prescription. For pain, you need at least 200 total minutes to get going, with the best results at 900. For frequency, it's 300 minutes to start, with a peak at 950. The really crucial takeaway here is that exercising beyond that 900 to 950 minute mark, it didn't seem to add any extra migraine-fighting benefits. It's all about hitting that sweet spot. So this is all fantastic data, but what does it actually mean for you, like this week? How do you apply this? Let's translate all those total minutes into a simple, practical weekly plan that you can really think of as your exercise prescription. So based on everything they found, the researchers came up with a preliminary recommendation. And it's wonderfully simple. 3 30-minute sessions of aerobic exercise per week. If you do the math, that's 90 minutes a week. And if you keep that up for about 10 or 11 weeks, you'll have gotten between 900 and 990 total minutes, which lands you right in that maximum benefit sweet spot we just talked about. Now, the scientists are, of course, very careful to ground this advice. They state that these findings support a preliminary recommendation and that it really should be confirmed in future studies. So this isn't some magic cure, but what it is the strongest, most specific, evidence-based starting point we have right now for using exercise to manage migraines. All right, let's wrap this up. What does all of this really mean for someone who's looking to gain more control over their life with migraines? Well, I think it comes down to empowerment through information. Here's the bottom line. First, we can now think of exercise as a targeted tool, not just some vague advice. Second, we know there's a just right amount, and more isn't necessarily better. Third, a really simple, achievable routine of about 90 minutes a week is enough to hit that sweet spot. And finally, this offers a powerful, non-drug path for you to proactively manage your health and gain more control over migraines. And that really just leaves us with one final thought. This research doesn't promise a cure, but it does offer a clear, actionable strategy. It gives us a number, a frequency, and a target to aim for. So the real question is, armed with this knowledge, could spending just 90 minutes a week on yourself truly change your relationship with migraine? It's a powerful possibility to consider.